Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paola Ovalle. I'm sales manager at LATAM Achilles Group. And today we will be sharing during this short presentation a very interesting topic that has to do with the responsible management of the supply chain and its suppliers. And we'll be sharing some important and relevant tips, specifically to the buyers and to the suppliers, as well as we know there are several audiences in here. This is the agenda for today. We will be sharing who we are and what are our priorities in supply risk management. And we will also be sharing some things about sustainability, which is, I think, a very hot topic nowadays. Achilles is a company that is present globally. We are present in more than 18 countries. Nowadays, we have more than 30 years of experience working with many industries coming from multiple economic sectors. Our main approach is to provide support to big companies to minimize the risk of the organization. We collect, validate, store, and monitor main data of our suppliers, of the suppliers and contractors. And when we talk about suppliers and contractors, we are not only talking about the current ones, but we are also talking about some potential offer of suppliers and contractors that might be available in the market in order for you to mitigate different risk elements that may be found. What is our differentiating factor, or what is our added value? We work with everything that has to do with risk mitigation. But Achilles' concern is also to support companies and organizations to reduce their carbon emissions, to help them to eliminate modern-day slavery, and to improve operational efficiency. So in this way, our clients can feel like they are being supported by a third-party ally. That would be us, in their purchasing and buying processes. So in this slide, we can see a little bit on the countries that we have presence on. We operate in all of the countries that have a red dot. We're talking about Mexico, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Peru, Colombia. And we also have the possibility of operating in other different countries. Because as I mentioned, we work with more than 11 industries worldwide. And when talking specifically about Latin America, we have about 1,700 providers that have been registered, that have been validated, that are constantly under monitoring processes. So you will have available all of this data from these 1,800 providers of the mining community. And this is a very important fact because our platform will allow you to visualize the information. So we will see the strengths and weaknesses of having a strategic partner that will provide support to your company in your supply chain management. Our data that is presented in a demographic way will help you to understand how this mining community is operating in Latin America. And this will allow us to see, as we see on the screen, what are the amount of suppliers that we have, whether at a small, medium, or large size. So it's important to understand that we have, or that we are meeting the right offer to meet our demand needs. So in order for us to contract or to hire suppliers, we will be making the best decisions, and we will be choosing the most ideal candidates in order for you as an organization to respond to your different requirements that you may have. This information is very relevant, but of course it is also important to be clear on how is this information is being portrayed, organized, and distributed. This is the information that we have regarding the different suppliers in this mining context of Latin America, and specifically speaking of Peru. Here we have found in this slide that the 25% of the companies have a certified quality management system, and the 14% of suppliers have a certified health and environmental safety management system. And here we see some other additional data. This is not either good or bad. These is just pieces of information that we have available, that we collect, that we gather, and that we validate in order for you to visualize. It is very relevant to understand what are the different conditions that this access to information is operating under. For all of the attendees to this session that are suppliers and not buyers, it will be important to mention that you should have all of your information and data up to date. And all of this data should be, again, up to date. It's very important to do so because even though Achilles is a neutral party, it is your responsibility to be in a constant sharing of information, to be constantly sharing your information. Because sometimes when we work with the buyers, if you don't have enough information, or if you don't have, for example, this certifications that we only see this figure that might be very low, just having a 25% out of 1,700 providers. So then our encouragement for the suppliers is to always have your information up to date. So the providers or suppliers could offer us on-time, accurate, and clear information in order for the people who are in charge of making decisions could really have an early analysis of what are the best candidates for their operations and processes in general. Nowadays, we understand that everything that has to do with the supply chain management, it's important to have a lot of information that is clear, information that is accurate on our suppliers, and that could become our strategic partners through the call business of our organizations. And Achilles offers companies a very strong database that will portray and show different information regarding the company information, regarding health and safety, regarding quality, everything that has to do with the business, the environmental aspect as well. That is very relevant, again, when we're talking about sustainability, and of course when talking about cybersecurity. So through our different tools, we can review all of these pieces of information. And what does this mean? This is historical data. And we're talking about the fact that information is power. The more access that we have to information, the more power we have to make decisions. And the more access to information that we have, the better decisions we will make. Again, you will be provided with all of these different sources of information, and Achilles is very willing to support you throughout this process. When talking about the priorities that have to do with the supplier risk management, we have identified 3 different elements that we would like to share with you. These are very simple and straightforward elements. These elements have to do with getting to know your supply chain, your suppliers. That is a must. We need to understand what are their supply chain. We need to think how does this situation is affecting me, how this shortage is affecting me for meeting this specific requirement. So the more access that I have to information, to relevant information, the more tools will I have to make better decisions. And then the second element is to pre-qualify more suppliers. And that should be reflected on our purchasing plan. In order for us to basically review what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, if we have already conducted a plan of action. What are the aspects that we are working efficiently, and what are the aspects that have room for improvement or that we need more information? So when we pre-qualify the suppliers, we can get in contact with other stakeholders because we are here to support you in that process. And you will be able to make better decisions and to choose better candidates. Let me remind you once more that you may already have your ethics or your compliance committee in your own company regulation. And our job is not to create influence on what you already have. Our job is to offer you verified and transparent, clear and accurate data that will be useful for you in your decision-making processes, and to offer you with early data that will be needed for meeting your own specific requirements. If there's something that we have learned from the pandemic, from this situation that we've been living for about 2.5 years now, is to always have a plan B, to always be prepared. We need to highlight the importance of providing an early consultation stage in our decision making to anticipate disruptions in our business and to mitigate risks efficiently. The third aspect has to do with building relationships with our key suppliers. Again, this is very related to the previous element that I mentioned. We should always be prepared. We need to be in contact communication with our suppliers. We need to have a deep understanding of what are their services or products exactly, and to ensure that all of this information is always available for early review, and that you will have an easy access to this information. So now, when we talk about minimizing risks, I would like to share a very simple element that we found, is that we need to see the whole overview of elements and aspects within the organization. We can be talking about the purchasing and supply area, the compliance area. We need to understand that there are certain patterns, and of course we can be talking about patterns and variables as well, but these patterns sometimes, most of the times, are being repeated within our risk mitigation processes. So we need to be very careful on what are the areas that could represent disruptions in our business, whether they come from an economic area, an environmental area, a legal area, or security. And here again, we need to be very careful on the fact that it is important to understand, again, on an early basis, the information that we're dealing with, the capacity and the response level that our suppliers could have to a specific situations and circumstances. Here we are sharing some past experiences during the pandemic once more, in which we have seen a lot of suppliers changing their operations. And all of us have reinvented ourselves and the way that we do business. We saw, for example, that we needed to count with verification of the return. And not only that, but we needed to ensure that all the employees were able to efficiently do their jobs. And to comply with all of the different health and safety and biosafety requirements, whether it was vaccination or COVID testing. So on our end, we portrayed the requirements that needed to be met, and we tried to prevent critical situations that need to be anticipated, because life is unexpected and we should always expect the unexpected. So when talking about the security area, we wanted to ensure that all of the employees of our suppliers and contractors were being treated appropriately, and we're having good relationships with one another. So it is important for us to ensure the right verification of the information regarding the services that our suppliers will be offering us or our businesses. And we need to ensure an ethical commitment in order for us to achieve transparency and to achieve security. In order for us to have a clear vision and say, okay, these are the providers that I want to hire right now, that I want to be in contact with. And in order for me to wrap up a little bit the presentation, we see that everything that has to do with sustainability is very relevant nowadays. This topic was first talked about in Europe, and it's not new. So we have implemented some modules and some measures. And let me assure you that Achilles is qualified to support you in the sustainability factors as well. And we have created different tools which has allowed us to gather and collect and validate information regarding sustainability and compliance as well. In the sustainability area, we analyze governance and organizational governance within the organizations. We also analyze community and social aspects. And then we, of course, analyze the environmental aspects. And then on the other side of compliance, we analyze everything that has to do with the legal and privacy elements. And here we identify different patterns and pieces of information coming from our suppliers and with their understanding and knowing, of course. So we are portraying all of this information for all of our buyers in order for you to make better decisions once more. These are the questionnaires that we applied for our suppliers, and we have 3 big sections. I'm sharing this in a very briefly. We have, first of all, the aspect of organizational governance. Then we see the social and community aspects within the organization and its environment. And then third of all, we analyze the environmental aspects regarding climate change. We see environmental management. We see the sustainable use of resources or waste management, for example. So then the suppliers that have joined our community will get a score that will allow you, buyers, to really understand and analyze if these suppliers are approaching to these sustainability indicators that are very important as of now, and they are working towards a friendly environmental approach for our planet and for future generations. And again, we are here to support you in this decision making thanks to the scoring that we have performed. So then you will be able to see if the score is low or is it medium, or if they are having a high score, and that would mean that suppliers have, of course, environmental requirements of sustainability that are appropriate, or if the suppliers are working towards getting that certification of sustainability. So this will, of course, will ensure you a better results at a profit response level, at a community level, and this will also let you know if your suppliers need greater support to achieve sustainability in a near future. And then here on this slide, what I would like to share with you is that is how you can visualize the information. So specifically for the buyers that are watching this presentation right now, here we can offer you different tools, and you will have access to all of these pieces of information that have a look and feel that is very friendly, that is very clear, and you will be able to visualize the data like the one that we have on this slide. We will see everything that has to do with sustainability, human rights, health and safety, governance, financial aspects, etc. We will see what are the steps that our providers are following. And we will offer you different graphs and tables that will portray the current situation of suppliers. Are they certified? Do they have the full documentation that is needed? Is this documentation applicable? Did it expire? When did it expire? And it's very important to understand that you may have some of this information available, partial pieces of information available. However, we have a full spectrum of information and data available for you to complement what you may already have. So thanks to our platform, you will be able to not only visualize this information, but to also create and save customized lists. And not only for potential providers or suppliers. You could create specific lists that will analyze particular aspects regarding your current suppliers. And then you could create a comparison list for specific services, operations, processes, products, etc. Because as of now, and on this slide, we are only seeing things related to sustainability, but we could analyze different aspects. So this is the final slide of my presentation. Here we can see the data and analysis and the insights that we offer. So, as I mentioned before, it's very important to be prepared for everything, for a crisis, for an interruption of business. So we see how our scoring works. And here we gather specific information from our suppliers, and we compare that information with the universe of suppliers, taking into account, for example, governance or other aspects. And then we can have that associated with a specific product or service, or we could find this information, or we could get this information for other potential suppliers. So with our platform, we will be able to understand if our suppliers are going through a tough time or are going through a crisis. And this offers a georeference that will allow you to see specifically where our providers or suppliers are located and which is the specific geography of our suppliers. As I mentioned before, it's super important to anticipate events and to have the relevant information on time and to see the availability of our providers. It's very important to see the comparison lists of the suppliers, how many of them are certified. We see quality, environmental aspects. So we see these suppliers are certified or not. These certified have the full documentations that is needed or not. Or whether they may have a full documentation of their processes, but this information is no longer up to date. So we are on this constant work of asking our suppliers to provide us with the best, clear, and more accurate information possible. So we are here to help you during your decision-making processes, specifically for purchasing and selling. This is our cyber score that we see here that are associated with all the suppliers that are available in your community, in your mining community, for example, in your network, in order for you to understand that Achilles, at a global level, operates in more than 25 countries, and we count with validated data of more than 125,000 providers. And all of this data is found in just one platform, in the Achilles network, that could be available for you in order for us to support you in your decision making and to support you and to help you to minimize risks, whether they are financial, economic, or compliance risks that could represent reputational risk. So in general terms, we want to be proactive, we want to anticipate events, we want to have strong strategic partnerships, we want to become an ally for you in order for us to help you during difficult times or the decision-making processes. We can help you to understand whether a provider is going through a tough time or a difficult time. So that would be all on my end for today. I hope that this presentation was useful for all of you. And if you have any further doubts or questions, you can have my contact information on screen. So thank you so much. Thank you.